Well, it must be a slow news day, cause it looks like the perfect time for more unsubstantiated Mother 3 release rumors. Not again. So, here we are on Destructoid.com. You might be asking yourself, where did it all go wrong? How did I end up here on the gaming news toilet of the internet? Oh, you know, the website most famous for the hard-hitting think pieces such as, there are many gamers at the gate, but they may already be dead. And, watch Bo Raicho fart on people in Mortal Kombat 10. I think we can all agree here when I say that I haven't been to Destructoid since 2010, and my life has been better for it. There was a time when Destructoid used to be my go-to site for gaming news and personalities. Hell, I'm willing to admit that I used to tune in to our friendly neighborhood cuck, pre-cuckening mind you, Anthony Birch for his Reverend rants. In this video series, he would deconstruct video games and their individual contributions as an artistic medium. He actually had some poignant videos that made me think critically about the games that I played. He even had a successful sketch comedy show with his sister about the game she was playing and incestuous undertones, but I enjoyed that stuff too. I was even around during the time when he proposed to his girlfriend, which was an endearing and humanizing moment for Anthony that tragically resulted in wearing blue jeans to his wedding and being united with his wife under some sort of Half-Life Bible.
So first, some housekeeping, because neither the bride nor the groom are terribly religious. The holy text I've chosen to pretend to read out of for this ceremony is Half-Life Raising the Bar, which is about as close to spirituality as any of us get.
Long story short, the marriage ended with a dispute over a Wii U. That's another story for another time. My point is, Destructoid used to be a pretty entertaining outlet that used to experiment with the kind of content they produced. They used to take chances on their editors' video ideas, and as a result, it was responsible for launching many careers for their editors. It was also a pretty good source of sexual harassment and victim blaming of said editors, but they swept that one under the rug real quick. Nowadays, I tend to stray far, far away from Neo-Destructoid and its Bo Raicho fart journalism when I can. But when the topic of Mother 3 localization came up, I took the bait. I'm not proud of myself, but at least I'm not this guy. Alright, here we go. Opinion. Rhythm Heaven series is dead. Mother 3 will never be localized. That's not so much of an opinion as it is a statement of declaration, but wait a minute, what the hell is this? 2-minute read? How do they know my reading ability? This is going to take a lot longer than 2 minutes. Furthermore, what is this bolded header right here? Inside source says Nintendo's current management doesn't see a future for these games. So what's the real title of this article? Is it an opinion piece? Like, is this Rhythm Heaven series is dead, Mother 3 will never be localized? Is that the title? Or is this the title down here, Nintendo's current management doesn't see a future for these games? What even is this? Plowing ahead here, it's always hard to categorize these sorts of posts. You're telling me. The leak of the SNES Classic was definitely a rumor, and this post is remotely in the same category as that. But what we have here is more of an opinion from a trusted source than a declaration of fact. But in the title you declared to... Anyway, how is this remotely in the same category? The SNES Classic was a safe prediction based on the sales data of the NES Classic alone. Anybody could have guessed that. And the leak wasn't just a rumor, it was an actual leak that was later proven true from a Microsoft survey gauging interest in the upcoming system. So this leak you're talking about is a leak of information that you had gotten from a GameStop manager just before the SNES Classic was announced when you were looking for a Twilight Princess Link amiibo. Oh, I guess that is different then. And no, the source isn't another gaggle of GameStop employees, noted. They asked not to be named. But rest assured, the sources here are pretty substantial, and they've stayed consistent with their reports for a while. Oh, okay then. I guess I'll just have to take your word on the matter then, since this unnamed source is pretty substantial and consistent and all. Hey, did you guys hear? I have a trusted source that tells me that Destructoid is in an unrecoverable death spiral, and the source is me, and the evidence is when you turn off Ghostery, you're treated to cross out banner ads, background layer ads, pop-up video ads, middle of the article ads, and middle of the article video ads to complement the pop-up video ads.
I was a model, y'all, at the Slauson Swap Meet. I've been modeling there stand-up comedian. You know, I started out as a model. I was a model, y'all, at the Sloss and Swap meet. I've been modeling there. I got all the best ratchet poses. One.
Is she ready? From
Pose
the hood to Hollywood is on.
Pose 3. That's the one you send all the best ratchet poses.
Let me just turn that back on. Ah, peace at last.
Pose 3, that's the one you send all the best ratchet.
It was actually back in 2015 that they first started telling me that Mother 3 would not be leaving Japan and that the Rhythm Heaven series was on indefinite hold. Hold up a minute here. So you've been sitting on this rumor for 2 whole years, and you just let it slip today? Didn't you just stop to think that your source might be full of shit? The moment that Rhythm Paradise Megamix released in 2016 on the 3DS eShop in North America. Doesn't that imply that the series wasn't on hold in 2015, therefore disproving your source's credibility? The thing is though, these kinds of decisions can be reversed at any time. What? If that's the case, why make a declarative statement like, Rhythm Heaven is dead and Mother 3 will never be localized? You don't know, your source doesn't know, and the decision can be reversed at any time. Okay. So, I've been holding out hopes that Nintendo gets their feet on the ground with the Switch. They may have a change of heart. It wasn't until yesterday that I finally let those hopes go, when I heard from yet another source that I should give up on both franchises for good. Here's their exact quote. Oh boy, this has to be the most convincing piece of evidence to ever arrive at Destructoid HQ. You never know what's gonna happen, but the way it looks right now under Nintendo's current administration, Mother 3 will never leave Japan, and there will never be another Rhythm Heaven game. Iwata was a driving force behind the Rhythm Heaven series, and a consistent advocate for NOA, to at least look at the possibility of Mother 3 finding a new audience in the United States and Europe. With him gone, there is no one at Nintendo pushing for either anymore. Let me just call attention to the first bit of that statement. You never know what's going to happen. There, that's it. That's where this story should begin and end. Your source just admitted that they didn't know this for a fact. You never know what's going to happen. Maybe they'll release Mother 3. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Why do you have to dig up Iwata and bring him into this shit? If Iwata were the only advocate for Rhythm Heaven and the only reason it ever came west, then why did Nintendo bother localizing the game 1 year after his death? If they really wanted it to remain a dead franchise, then why take a chance on localizing it? Not to mention, Rhythm Heaven is a low-budget title made by former Nintendo SPD-1, which have always worked on games with a shoestring budget like the WarioWare series. But to top it all off, why would Nintendo kill a franchise that sold 650,000 copies since release in Japan? Now, I'm not any sort of data analyst here, but I'm assuming that's a pretty big profit margin for such a small title. Anyways, if Nintendo had no plans to release Mother 3, then why spend all that time hyping up Earthbound Beginnings? And why doesn't Reggie ever keep his mouth fucking closed about his interactions with the Mother 3 fan base? He teases it like once a year, every year for the past 10 years.
Come on, Reggie, give us Mother 3! How about this instead?
There's probably more complicated reasons than just Iwata pushing for it and then dying. Moving on. The core team behind the Rhythm Heaven series has more or less disbanded. Let me just stop you there. This is not true at all. SPD-1 was merged into Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development, and they just developed and released 1-2 Switch, so that's a lie. And the last time anyone at Nintendo of America considered translating Mother 3, they shelved the game as soon as they got to the Magypsies. Now I get it. I know what this is all about. Okay, so devil's advocate here. This seems like it could be a real issue faced by Nintendo when localizing Mother 3, given the current political climate. I understand. There are some people out there that would take one look at the Magypsies and cry transphobia or claim they are a bastardized depiction of a transsexual character in a video game. Fair points to make if you've never played the game, which we will not have the opportunity to do so and form our own opinions apparently to this guy. It's been a long time since I've played Mother 3, and I played it on my PSP thanks to Tomato's translation of it, but from my memory, the Magypsies were the guardians of the world in Mother 3. They're responsible for keeping the 7 needles that keep the dark dragon at bay and prevent the Dark Dragon from waking up and blowing up the whole world, spoiler alert. They're not really male or female, they're just androgynous beings. They're just their own thing, their own being, their own existence, their own gender. Now, speaking as a fairly androgynous being, I don't think the Magypsies are portrayed in any negative or offensive manner. The only possible thing that I can see them causing an issue with Nintendo and localization would be how Lucas has to make out with the Magypsies in order to get oxygen when he travels underwater. That may not be an issue of Nintendo fearing localization out of transphobic remark fear, but maybe not wanting to depict any sort of sexual undertones in a kid's game, regardless of gender or sexuality, if that makes sense. It's just pure speculation on my end, and I'm willing to admit that, unlike someone I know. However, there's one grain of truth to this statement, then Birdo's egg-spitting Gina-mouth would have been gone years ago. This was a little while ago, and if anything, management has gotten even less adventurous since then. Oh really? Nintendo has gotten less adventurous now. I present to you Exhibit A!
Wake me up before you go. Don't leave me hanging on like a yo-yo. Wake me up before you go.
Depicting trans characters in a way that would likely insult both the political left and the right in the US is the last kind of attention that Nintendo wants for themselves in 2017. They want nothing to do with those kinds of headlines and potential protests. Dear Lord, how would the Magypsies be an insult to the political right at all? The left, I could kind of see, but what right-wing person would give a shit about the depiction of Game Boy Advance characters in 2017? They already exist, they've been out for over a decade, and no one fucking said anything. I'd love to see the one dude out there with a sign protesting this oddly specific thing in a game outside of Nintendo of America's headquarters. Could you even imagine that shit? Anyways, I think Jonathan's statement dismisses how diverse the Earthbound community really is, and in my personal experience, I've met gamers of all different genders and sexual orientations that just want to see Mother 3 come out in the West in any form at all, and they've already beaten Tomatoes translations several times since, and I truly feel that no one cares. They see it as a video game, and any true fan of Mother 3 will tell you the Magypsies are pretty much the unsung heroes of Mother 3. I think that the goodwill that Nintendo could earn by releasing Mother 3 in the West finally would far outweigh any sort of clickbait controversial article that you yourself might publish upon release that would last maybe 3 days. This would finally allow some of us out here to no longer be pirates and actually support the things we love. And the people who are truly offended by it, they don't have to support it. They don't have to buy it. They don't have to play it. It doesn't do anything to damage Nintendo's brand because you've already released the game in Japan. It's an existing thing. So if anyone who's offended by the Magypsies, they're already offended by the Magypsies. This does nothing but placate people who are never satisfied, Nintendo. So there you have it. Have what exactly, Jonathan? You just posted some hearsay and didn't make a case on your own for why Mother 3 or Rhythm Heaven can't happen anymore. How is this an opinion piece if you don't ever share your opinion? You just posted some shit you may have heard from some guy about 2 series never being released just because Iwata died. So if Iwata were alive, would that influence your non-existent opinion on the matter? Maybe things will change if and when Chad Conchelmo becomes president of Nintendo and or the United States of America. Is this some kind of inside joke that I don't get? Is Chad gonna be the one to relieve the fears of Nintendo's Magypsy phobia? Is that what you're saying? But for now, don't hold your breath on seeing Mother 3 on the eShop or the announcement of a new Rhythm Heaven anytime soon. Yeah, and don't hold your breath for Destructoid being around for another year with stories like this.